Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 261, recorded live on Monday, September 21st, 2015. I am your host, and thankfully not one of AIM's much maligned librarians, but I am Todd Klindt, and I will be your host tonight. The show, all this is possible because of the fine benefactor that I have at Rackspace. You can go to SharePoint.rackspace.com and find out about all the great things that Rackspace is doing. And while you're out there, once you get done cruising around all there, you can go to www.rackspace.com/Microsoft and see what other Microsoft products we offer. Things like Exchange and Skype for Business and Azure and all kinds of great things that's out there. And then open up another tab. And if you're ashamed, find out, afraid somebody will find out, go ahead and open up one of those in private browsers. And when you get done doing your banking, you can cruise over to toddklint.com/blog and find out what I'm doing, those kind of things. And get me on Twitter at Todd Klindt, things like that. I'm out there. I'm all over the internet. You can find me in the places where all good internet folks hang out. On to production notes. I think there's not a lot in the production notes to talk about. Got everything set out late because of traveling to SharePointalooza and all that, but it's all out there. I think the sound's all good, all those kind of things. So that that will be good. For the production notes, Joanne's asking about my voice. Yes, there's a very good chance that during next week's production notes, I'll have to apologize for my voice giving out this week. I had a lot of fun at SharePointalooza. I'm getting ahead of myself, but my instrument, my throat, has taken quite a beating. So hopefully it will stick up for the rest of the night. But let's go on and see what we have to talk about. So for topics, and I realize how small that is. I need to change that up there in the background. Topics. So obviously SharePointalooza was the big thing going on last week. That was a little party, a little shindig, a little soiree that Mark Rackley throws down yonder every year. For a couple of years, it was in Harrison, Arkansas, and then he moved it up to Branson, Missouri. And this year, I decided to grace Mark with my presence. In all reality, this is the first year that Mark lowered himself to inviting me, but I will tell the story however I want. And when Mark gets his podcast, he can tell the story however he wants. In my world, this was the first year that I chose to join the SharePointaloozians down there at SharePointalooza. And 4 or 5 years, or 4 years now, I suppose, I've been hearing stories about what a great party Mark puts on. And it's not just SharePoint, it's a party, and he brings bands in, things like that. And for 4 years, I've been hearing all the obnoxious stories about all the fun that people have had down there. And this year I got to experience it for myself. And I think from my voice, you can tell how good of a time I had. It was a great time. I had 2 sessions while I was down there. I had one Friday morning with Jason Himmelstein. We talked about Azure AD and getting that all synced up and what that means for your on-prem SharePoint farm. And then Saturday afternoon, I had one on using PowerShell with SharePoint Online. And that one nearly did not happen. I brought my personal laptop and then my Surface. And with my Surface a while back, I've got this little purse essentially that has all the connectors I need for my tablets, the USB on the go things and the video adapters and all that. And a while back, I bought a new adapter for my Surface Pro 2 that has a bunch of other video adapters on it. And in my head, it had all of the other video adapters on it. In reality, it had all except the one that I needed. So I went to set up in that room, got my laptop out. My laptop only has HDMI. And so I'm like, hey, no problem. I got my tablet. I'm doing the Dropbox thing. Everything's syncing around. It's going to be great. Pull my tablet out, pull my little adapter out, and it has everything but VGA, which is all that projector had. Well, that's all the only cable. Now, the projector had an HDMI connection, but it was, 20 feet away, which is no problem because I always pack like a really long HDMI cable with me when I travel, hook it up to the hotel room TVs and all. But that was in my car. My car was clear in the parking lot. But fortunately, Lori was there and she had an HDMI or had a mini DisplayPort to VGA adapter. So the show did go on. So thank you, Lori, for that. For a while, I was afraid we were going to have everybody in the room kind of huddle around my laptop, which would have been very cozy. And I had showered that day, so I think it would have been fine. But we were not reduced to that. We did have the VGA connection, so that all went well. So the sessions went well, had a lot of questions, a lot of good discussion, always a good time. Got to meet again. These events are like family reunions, and we have them all the time. And but there's always a different group of people. So, you know, I had SB TechCon a couple of weeks ago, but this was some people here that I haven't got to see for a while, and it was a great time. And so I enjoyed that. Got to see some folks that I haven't got to see for a while. So in the chat room, Lynn Dye is there. Got to hang out with her. Lynn listened to the podcast a while back, and then her and I met at a different conference, a non-SharePoint conference that I went to once, and we've stayed friends since then. And this was right in her neighborhood, so that was good to be able to hang out with her. Just some other folks I haven't got to see for a while. Had a great time, and the music was good. The partying was good, and it's still my voice is just not recovered yet. One of the things, so last week on the podcast, I mentioned that I was thinking about getting some cheesy publicity shots and signing them and giving them away as prizes. Lori took it upon herself to actually get those printed out, and she had them with her when we got to Branson. So I signed some super cheesy stuff on there, and they actually gave them away. Now, I missed the big prize giveaway on Saturday. I drove down to Branson. I wasn't feeling good again because of my throat and all that, so I left after my session. But during the prize giveaway, I had a couple copies of my book that I gave out, and they gave out these super cheesy publicity shot pictures with it. And one guy got what I can only assume is the worst conference prize ever. He got this autographed picture of me. This guy named Vadim, he works at oh my goodness, I'm blanking, Nintex with Mike Fitzmaurice. So I talked to the guy. It was all very much fun. But I there's a link in the chat room, and I'll put it in the show notes of him with this ridiculous picture of me and this goofy disappointed look on his face. It was a good time. Had a great time. For the last couple of years, Mark has said that this is the last SharePointalooza that he will do. I hope to God that he doesn't stick to that this year, because I want to do another one next year. It was a lot of fun. So thanks to Mark, thanks to Jason Himmelstein, who was, I think, my track owner. Thanks to Lori, she was in there somewhere getting some stuff done. Thanks to everybody I talked to. Met some new podcast listeners that I had not met before. That was great. Had a good time. Really glad that I went. Had a good time. Okay, on to our next topic. So for a while now, I've been talking about the cloud search service application that was introduced both in the SharePoint 2016 preview and in the August 2015 cumulative update for SharePoint 2013. And there's been more and more coming out with this. Now, there's not a lot of documentation out, so every time something comes out, I feel obligated to tweet it, blog it, and tell you guys about it. And last week, one of those things came out. This was on the Enterprise Search blog on MSDN. And it's just a big article on this cloud search service application. It's got a good breakdown of how it works and where things flow all over inside of search. It's got a ton of links. I swear it's got a link to everything on the web that has any reference to this whatsoever. So it's great to have those all in one place. And then it goes through after it kind of describes how things work and has 1,000,006 links. And then it walks through the setup and the configuration. Now, this, in order for your search service application to work with Office 365, it has to be built with a very specific parameter, a cloud index equals true parameter. And by that definition, you can't reuse the search service application you already have. You have to rebuild a new one. And this blog post goes into great detail on how that all works. It provides PowerShell scripts, because you can't do this in central admin. So it provides PowerShell scripts to create the cloud search service app. And if you want to use your own script, like I use my own, it tells you what you need to add to that. It also provides all of the onboarding scripts, because having the cloud service search service app built is not enough. You need to onboard it in Office 365. They provide all of that. And most importantly, there's a bunch of help for troubleshooting. So after everything gets working, then you you can see where things are supposed to flow. When you do crawls, you can see where documents are supposed to. They've got a bunch of that, which will be great for troubleshooting. And I'm super happy about that because I've installed this on one farm and it's broken. I can't get it to work. And there's not been a lot of documentation out there about what to look for and what events to look for in the ULS logs, things like that. This blog post has that. So I read through it again today, and tomorrow, after a good night's sleep and a couple of cups of coffee, and with renewed vigor and energy, I will attack this cloud search service app and hopefully get it working. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that read through all this before you do before you set all this up. I say this because I think I missed a couple of steps. I think I missed a couple of steps before the onboarding process, and that might be what the problem is that I've got. So read through it all. It's super long, but if you're going to use this thing, it'll really help. I think you'll appreciate it. So speaking of patches, last week I talked a little bit about the September 2015 cumulative update for SharePoint 2013. And how it was not an Uber patch, and how there were 6 or 7 different patches depending on what you were patching that you had to install. There was 2 for Foundation and 4 for Server, and then another one for Project, and it was kind of out there. Well, thank goodness this week, or actually a couple days ago, Microsoft re-released the SharePoint 2013 cumulative update in the Uber format, in the Uber fashion. So that means there is 1 patch for Foundation, 1 patch for Server, and 1 patch for Project, and it includes the previous patches. Patches the way the good Lord intended. They're all right there. So this dials back the already complex SharePoint patching difficulty. Now it dials it back from an 8 to say a 7.5, 7 3/4. Solid progress made though, working that dial back. And so that will make it all. I've installed it. I installed the non-Uber patches in one farm, and that was all working. And then today, when I got this all set up to check my links, I went and installed the Uber patch in another farm. Seems to work fine. I used Russ Maxwell's install script for patches, and that worked fine. Seems to be the same build version. It seems to be the I can't believe I don't have that handy. I don't want to say it out loud if it's going to be wrong either. The 4753.1000. It's that same build number as the individual patches were. So it really does look like it was nothing but a packaging change. So I went ahead, since I checked it all, I went ahead and updated all the patches or all the links to the patches on my blog post and on my wiki. So there are no signs of the old links anywhere, because you really shouldn't install those if there's an Uber patch out there. TechRev Merrill Sanders is asking in the chat room, any idea on how long the new September Uber patch takes to install? Didn't take me long, took less than an hour. And again, I use Russ Maxwell's install script, and I stopped search, and it went pretty quickly. And again, this was a single server. This was kind of a test environment. It was a single server farm, but didn't take long at all. Seemed to work pretty well. So I would not, do your testing, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad at all. But again, I've changed all those pages. So I hated changing the pages. I hate removing links and taking things out, because it always feels like I'm trying to hide something, and I didn't want to do that. But I really don't want people to get confused and download the wrong ones, so I just put the Uber links out there. But by all means, let me know if you have any problems installing that or any other patches. As far as I know, there's no regressions with the September cumulative update. Everything seems to be working well. But if you find any, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at Todd Klindt. Send me an email, todd.klindt@rackspace.com. Joanne Klein mentions in the chat room that she uses Russ Maxwell's script as well. It saves a ton of time. Mercy Lord, does it make things easier. And I will send a link right here to the blog post on that. So this is a blog post of Russ Maxwell. He's a SharePoint PFE, I believe. And he wrote the script that he wrote a blog post that explains why patching takes so long, and then he wrote a script to help make it go a little quicker on SharePoint 2013 boxes. And I've just taken that. That's always how I install my patches now. And I've got a folder in Dropbox that has all of the scripts that I use on a new SharePoint server. So after I build up a new SharePoint server, I copy that folder onto the new server, and it has that install patch .ps1 in it. And then every time I download a patch, I just make a copy of that script and drop it over there. I install all my patches that way. Haven't done it any other way for months, and could not be happier. So I highly recommend that. And there's also a link to that on my SharePoint 2013 blog post page. If you go to toddklindt.com/SP2013 builds, you can see a link to that as well. Okay, so moving along smartly. So as you guys know, I've been talking a lot lately about Azure AD and all the great and cool things that it can do. And in the last week, they've released a couple of things, and I'll talk about one of them tonight. One of them is the Azure AD Premium Dashboard. And that is something that they have talked about for a bit, but it's a dashboard. Again, it requires the premium SKU for Azure Active Directory, but it gives you a one-stop shop for kind of an overview of what's going on in your Azure AD tenant, shows things like failed authentication attempts, password resets, group changes, things like that. So if somebody is attacking your tenant or crazy things going on, you'll see some numbers there. Also has links to a bunch of the configuration options for your tenant. Things like self-service password reset, multi-factor auth, all those kind of things. Those are all on that same page. So it's in preview now. It's not for ready, not for real, but it's in preview. Now, if you don't have Azure AD Premium, I have good news for you. You can get a demo Azure AD Premium account. And then, once you do that, then there's a link in the blog post that I linked that will take you right to that dashboard, and you can check it out for yourself. And that will help you decide whether you want to buy Azure AD Premium for your regular Azure AD. But this is just one of those things. This and other things that have been going on just show me how serious Microsoft is about authentication. They are really, really taking this seriously. They really want to be your online identity as a service provider. And this is just another one of the many things that they've done that's making that easier for us. And the more I see about Azure AD, the more excited I get about it. And this is, like I said, just another feather in their cap. But if you have Azure AD Premium, check that out. If you don't have Azure AD Premium, sign up for one of the free trials and check it out and see what's out there. I think we're all the SharePoint folks eventually are going to have to be comfortable with Azure AD. I think that's kind of the way things are going. So it's a good career investment for you to go out there and check that out. Speaking of previews and things on the web, I saw this a couple of days ago. Now, we all know that on October 6th, here in a couple of weeks, Microsoft's having a big hardware event out in New York City, and we're expecting to see some new Surfaces. We're expecting to see some other new tablets, maybe some Xbox thingers, maybe some new Windows mobile phones. They've talked about that a little bit. But one of the things that we were hoping that we would see is the upgrade to this little devil, the Microsoft Band. Now, I know a number of you in the chat room have bands. I know that Joanne has one. I know that Lori has one. I've got one. This band is a fun little deal. Now, I got this band, several months ago, 6-8 months ago. I don't remember when it came out. And I use this thing all the time. But part of its charm or not is that it's very utilitarian. It's very business looking. A bunch of other places have fitness watches and smartwatches and things like that. This is not that. This is all work and no play. It is all utility, no fun. But I found out that I don't mind that. And the reason that I don't mind that is because I like to wear watches. I'm wearing a watch right now. And this thing, obviously not being a watch, makes me not feel dumb about wearing a watch. So it works out pretty well. But I use this thing when I run. I ran today at lunch. I use my band for that. It hooks up to Microsoft Health, brings everything in. And so I'm super excited about the band, but there is some room for improvement. And one of the things that they're potentially improving, there were some leaks on the web, some photos of the Band 2, may or may not be legit, we don't know. But it looks like it's going to be the next revision of the band. Doesn't look like there's a lot of big changes, but it looks like the face, which you can see here, is a very flat thing. That's going to be curved. It looks like they added some trim, some like metal trim to it to make it look a little better, look a little sleeker, a little less hardcore. but we can't tell for sure. Now, as for what they've changed, sensor wise or any of those kind of things, we don't have any idea about that because they're just pictures. But I'm a little excited to see what it has. When the band first came out, I was not too excited, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have bought this one. But I got it cheap, and I thought, what the heck? Somebody bought one, didn't like it, sold it to me, so I thought, I'll try it for cheap. Love it. I like it a lot, and I would definitely buy another one. In the chat room, there's been a lot of discussions about getting these things replaced. So a bunch of them are wearing out on the inside. So the batteries are here on the inside, and this is all kind of rubberized, and then there's this rubber piece here where the charger hooks up. A bunch of people have had that wear out. Now, I don't know if that's just because of different skin alkalinity or what the deal with that is. I've not had that problem. I wear mine every day. I run with mine. I've run, let's say, hundreds of miles with mine. I might be exaggerating a bit, but I've not had that problem, but I recognize that people do have that problem. But what's really cool is that if you have one of these and you do wear it out or it comes apart or whatever, apparently you can just take it to a Microsoft store and say, this thing is broken, and they give you another one that is not broken. So that's really nice. I've not had to do that myself, even though there's a Microsoft store down in Des Moines. I've not had to do that, but I've been very happy, and I'll probably get a new one. Now, Tech Rev Merrill, he's mentioning that he's had some problems with his, and I think he might be joking when he says he wears it in the shower. A couple of notes on that. Well, 3 notes. Number one, number two, as far as I know, the band is not waterproof. It's water resistant. And so I wouldn't wear mine in the shower. Number 3, in the shower is when I charge mine. Obviously not in the shower, but I have a charger in my bathroom. And when I get up in the morning, I wear it at night because it does the sleep thing for me. And then when I get up in the morning and take my shower and get ready and all that, I charge my band in the bathroom. And so it gets a good, 10, 15 minutes of charge every day. And that's enough to keep it going for most of the week. Now, I do notice that towards the end of the week, it doesn't quite catch up. So I need to charge a little bit at my desk. But I went out and bought some extra charging cables. And so I've got one here at my desk, and I've got one in my backpack, and then one in my bathroom. So I just top it off. The other thing is I know if I run, the GPS kills this battery dead. So I know, on the days that I think I'm going to run, I charge it at my desk in time for that. But really like it. It's been very good. One thing I was noticing today, so I've been running a bunch for the last few weeks, and it's starting to get cool here in Iowa. Fall is definitely on its way. And when I ran today, I ran significantly better. My split times were about 20 seconds a mile faster. But I think that's because it's getting cooler out. It's like 10 degrees cooler today than it was a week ago when I ran, or the last time Wednesday. What I wish the Microsoft Health app did was, obviously it knows where I'm at GPS-wise because it's tracking me on the little thing. I wish it would put the weather information at the start of my run in the run so I could see, hey, I really kicked butt that day. Oh, well, that's because it was, 65 degrees. And the last time you ran, it was 85 degrees. So I was looking around. Apparently, the Samsung S Health app will do that. If you run with your Samsung phone and have it track your run, it does put things like temperature, humidity, wind speed, and all that. I would punch somebody in front of their mama if that's what it would take to get that added to Microsoft Health. So I would love that because I think that's a big part when you're running distances like that. That's handy information. Beth in the chat room, BearGal34. Sorry about the Bears this weekend. She says she doesn't like wearing a watch, so she hasn't bought one. I can see that. And honestly, it being on my wrist, and especially being upside down like this, gets in the way when I type. I find it myself hitting it on the table sometimes, but I've mostly gotten used to it. It's not too bad. I do wear mine inside out because text messages and things like that show up on this. And so if I had the display on the top, then potentially somebody I was talking to or whatever could see the content of the text message, those kind of things. So I didn't want to do that. So I've got it underneath. But yeah, you try it. We'll see. The other thing is when the Band 2s come out, maybe the bands will get cheaper. Who knows? But the functionality for the band is pretty sweet. They've got a pretty decent developer network out there where you can write some really light apps for it. I haven't done that because, well, I'm not a developer, but it looks like it's not too tough to add tiles if you want to do things like that. But we'll see here in a couple of weeks. We'll find out what they have in store for us. Okay, so I'm getting towards the end. I had a couple of, I guess I just had one more thing I wanted to talk about. And this is something that kind of is on the heels of the Azure AD things and the hybrid search things. And this is Microsoft has been working on a new way to import content into SharePoint Online even faster. And this is a combination of a few things. If you do the regular export, you're kind of doing items one at a time, documents one at a time. It takes forever. This new Office 365 import service has a couple of ways to speed up your exports out of SharePoint on-prem or file systems or Exchange and into Office 365. And there's a few different options. I'm not going to cover them all, but one of them is you can just send them a hard drive. There's a way you can go into Office 365 admin and get things set up, especially prepare a drive and send a hard drive off to them and bring it in that way. For me, the most exciting way is you can on-prem do an export SP web. And now with the SharePoint Online commandlets, there are some new commandlets for formatting and packaging up your export. So now you can take your export web, which by default is compressed, compress the whole web, not just individual documents, but compress the whole web. And then there's a couple of commands that you can use to export it and upload it. And what it ends up doing is taking your web export, packaging it up in such a way that Office 365 can understand it. And then it uploads it to Azure Blob Store. And the advantage behind that is the pipe between the Azure Blob Store and Office 365 is much faster than the connection between your desk and Office 365. So not only is your package compressed, but when it gets uncompressed, it's getting over to Office 365 by a much faster pipe. So as people are starting to play with Office 365 more and get things into Azure AD and get comfortable with this whole hybrid and all that, these kind of tools are ones you're going to want to use to get your content up there. Now, the other great thing about this is it's an interface, it's a standard, it's a thing. So third parties can also take advantage of this. You don't have to do it from PowerShell and do the command line stuff. For one, I know ShareGate can take advantage of this. So you can use the ShareGate software. And you have the option of doing your documents one at a time, or you can put your Azure information in and create your package and pipe it up that way. So as you're planning your migrations to and from and all that, keep this tool in mind. It's a pretty good one. I haven't had a chance to use it much myself, but I know some of my coworkers at Rackspace have been playing with it, and they seem happy with it. It's got some bugs, there's some provisioning things, but once they get it working, they seem to like it. All right, I just talked to my voice, and he says I should wrap it up, so I will do that. I'm going to be in Las Vegas on October 26th through the 29th for Dev Intersections. You will find more information about that at devintersection.com. Not exactly sure what sessions I'll be doing there. Something fun, something cool, something hip. I'm just sure of it. Plus, Vegas is just a fun town, so you should come out there. And, oh, this is good. So TechRev Merrill says he's used the Azure thing with ShareGate, and it was super fast, so that's good. Daniel Glenn says that Metalogix does it as well, so that's awesome. They should. So definitely consider this and give it a shot. Back to our promotion. Dev Intersections, Las Vegas, Nevada, October 26th through the 29th. I'll be doing a couple of sessions out there. When I get those figured out, I will let you know what those are. And then it looks like I'm going to be doing something with IT Unity here in a couple of weeks, but I don't have all the information about that, and the sign-up's not there. But I will let you guys know about that when I get to do that. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to my voice for holding out and making this all work. Looks like we're going to come in right at about a half an hour, which is good. We'll be back next week. I've got a couple of topics that I did not get to tonight, so I've got those pre-canned for next week. Hopefully next week I will have slain the cloud search service application dragon, and I'll be able to tell you harrowing tales of my victory and how cool that all is. And so you want to stay tuned for episode 262. So until then, I know you'll be on the edge of your seat, but watch this one again, and I will see you next week.